The other day, Donald Trump threatened to take back what is being called Antifastan. If you're not familiar with what that is, that's just a nickname many people on the right have given it, but it's kind of funny. In reality, the left-wing activists and some extremists call it the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. It's a small space in Seattle. The story, for those that aren't familiar, is that some Antifa types were fighting with police. Police ultimately evacuated and abandoned the police precinct, essentially surrendering it to these far left extremists. Well, they took over the space, dubbed it the CHAZ, the Autonomous Zone, and then many other activists came in. Now, it's been mostly peaceful, but in reality, there are people there who are armed, who are running the borders of the zone, checking IDs, checking for weapons. Many of these people are associated with a group called the John Brown Gun Club. If you're not familiar with this group, they're a leftist, pro-gun, activist group or extremist group, whatever you want to call them. Maybe not fair to call them extremists, but they are on the fringe of politics. They have been associated with a guy who in Tacoma, which is in the Seattle area, he went and attacked an ICE facility last year. We'll get into more of that later. But the big story right now is the sheer absurdity of how this is being covered in the media. Notably, that CNN, while trying to call it peaceful, then warned of the potential for bloodshed should Donald Trump try to move in to take the zone. Okay, not necessarily Donald Trump, but he said, you got to understand, a lot of these people are armed, and if law enforcement tries to take this place back, there's a potential for violence. Let me start just by saying, shut up, CNN. Come on. None of these John Brown Gun Club people are going to shoot a cop. That's ridiculous, okay? Yes, there are armed extremists. They're on the far left of fringe of politics, whatever you want to call them. They're legally allowed to bear these weapons. They're legally allowed to walk around. I'm not going to complain about that, but they are doing some illegal things. Stopping people at your border and demanding IDs or frisking them, as some have reported, that's illegal. People are allowed to freely move through this city. We've also heard reports from the police that some of the local businesses and residents are being shaken down. They're being extorted. These groups want cash. For the most part, what's going on in Seattle is a bunch of hippies doing their hippie dance, watching movies, listening to music, and I don't think it's all that worrisome for the most part. Now, there are some concerns that this could go one of two ways. It can either just fizzle out and people, the little kids, the naive kids playing rebels and revolutionaries eventually get bored and go home. Or because we do have these extremist factions involved, their influence could expand. They could take more territory, and these could pop up across the country where they're barring police from entering. So whether or not anybody actually comes in, okay, you do have some considerations to make in terms of, will this get worse or will it disappear? Now, Donald Trump says he wants to set them straight. That's what he's saying right now. He says, I'll straighten out Seattle. I'm not convinced right now that's the right thing to do. But I also think you can't just allow the police department to be overrun. The police are trying to come back in. They're not letting them in. And there is a legitimate conflict here. But let's be real. We are not dealing with a real autonomous country. We are not dealing with a horde, an army of communists trying to take over the country. It's a bunch of dumb kids playing rebels and revolutionaries. And I actually mean that with a little bit of respect for what they're doing. They're peacefully assembling most people there have assembled peacefully. What needs to be stopped is the lawlessness, shutting down the police precinct, running the barricades. That's over the line. And that's why there needs to be some real legal considerations into what to do next. The mayor is refusing to do anything. Trump says he's going to come in. But it really is the lowest of low tier in terms of problems, and Trump could probably make it worse if he does come in. One thing that won't happen, though, I do not believe there will be bloodshed. I think it's fair to say there's a possibility of it. But CNN right now, let's get to the meat and potatoes here. CNN is running two contradictory narratives. One, from their media reporter, Oliver Darcy, who straight out lies and says, there's no Antifa militants here. And then another report that aired with Anderson Cooper where a guy says, well, they are armed, so if law enforcement comes, there could be bloodshed. I think both of these are absurd. But hey, welcome to 1984, I guess, where CNN runs contradictory narratives at the same time. Here's the story from the Daily Caller. CNN reporter calls CHAZ peaceful, says you have to worry about the potential for bloodshed. You gotta love it, don't you? It's like you can't get real news, can you? Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can give. In fact, there is a P.O. box where you can send whatever you'd like to send if you'd like to send it. But the best thing you can do, share this video. Why? Well, CNN is propped up by YouTube. I kid you not. They get beneficial algorithmic treatment. You're more likely to see their videos, giving them hundreds of millions of views every month when they produce garbage like this. If you think I do a better job, well, I don't have the big marketing budget of CNN, so you can help out by just sharing the video because it does help my channel. Now, if you just want to watch, hit the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, and let's read this story from the Daily Caller. They report, a CNN reporter was on the streets in Seattle's Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ, speaking about how peaceful it was Thursday. You have to worry about the potential for bloodshed, he reported seconds later, speaking about if protesters had to be removed by force. CNN, what are you doing? Now, if in fact there is going to be federal officers or federal law enforcement come to this area, it is not going to be a pretty situation. Short of some type of major concession, they're not going to leave voluntarily, he continued. The reporter said that food is being served, medical tents are present, and people are camping out. He also reported that music played and some watched movies, calling CHAZ sort of a contradictory situation. On the one hand, began with force, but right now it's peaceful. Yes, it's called seizing territory. Tucker Carlson did a segment about it, and it really was hilarious because he facetiously does refer to it as a new country that exists on this planet. But he points out the hilarious hypocrisy of these activists. First of all, they conquered land. They seized the land from people who already lived there. Okay, so they're colonial, I guess. They're colonists. They're also using guns, even though they're simultaneously arguing about police and their guns. There literally is a sign saying cowards hide behind their guns. They're also setting up border walls and running checkpoints to keep out undesirables. They also have their own internal police who have been accused of assaulting people. Yes, congratulations. You've invented a parallel society doing the exact same things you complained about. And you know what that reveals? It reveals they don't really want change. They just want the power. If they're going to create the exact same institutions that already exist, then clearly they just want the power of those institutions. They don't want change. That's why you can't allow them to take power, because they are corrupt individuals themselves. Let's read more. The reporter pointed out that Washington is an open carry state and added, no doubt some of these protesters are armed. So you have to worry about the potential for bloodshed, the potential for violence, in the case that law enforcement does try and remove activists by force. I'm going to say it for the millionth time. That is an absurd, absurd statement. I mean, I guess it is fair to point out, but come on, man. He should have followed up with, listen, the likelihood that any of these people who are armed are going to turn their weapons on cops is ridiculous, okay? To be fair, however, cops have been ambushed in recent time. So it's not like it can't happen. It can. I just think it's very, very unlikely, okay? But maybe, I don't know, maybe it is fair to point out that with Las Vegas, with Oakland, with St. Louis, with Chicago, with these shootouts, the cops are going to be on edge. But I don't think these particular people are going to engage in that behavior. That being said, I have two big fears. If the police do move in, or the military comes in, or Trump comes in, he could potentially make this grow and expand. Occupy Wall Street, in my opinion, only became relevant because Officer Tony Baloney, actually is Anthony Bologna is his name, they call him Tony Baloney, walked up to a few women who were just standing on a street corner for no reason and sprayed him in the face with pepper spray. Must have been about a rage, I guess, but that video went viral and ignited Occupy Wall Street across this country. If Trump does send in military or federal officers or anything, you could potentially see this happen in many other cities, so perhaps it's not the appropriate thing to do. On the other hand, there is a fear that you actually do have armed groups here, and we have seen violence against cops. If there is reluctance to actually go in and police this properly because they are acting unlawfully, it could spread. Knowing they have the PR support and the advantage due to the conflict happening across this country and the ability to weaponize any negative press that comes out of them being attacked by federal law enforcement, they may seek to expand. That could potentially be dangerous. I'm not going to pretend to know what the right answer is or what, Trump should or shouldn't do. But Trump is straight up saying right now, I'll straighten Seattle out. Trump threatens to take on the cop-free autonomous zone himself, says he won't let the city be occupied by anarchists, and criticizes response from pathetic mayor who said it was a block party. You know what? It mostly is a block party. but you do have some lawlessness that needs to get straightened out. The cops have apparently tried to re-enter the precinct. They've been able to. Some people have gone into the precinct and apparently damaged and destroyed things. And ultimately, the protesters are keeping the police out. This is a step too far. It's setting a dangerous precedent if something isn't done about it. Maybe Donald Trump is talking about straightening them out, not by clearing out the autonomous zone, but simply allowing the barricades, allowing people to freely move in and out, and allowing the police to go back to their precinct, a return to law and order. Let them have their block party, let them serve their ice cream and order their pizzas and plant their little flowers in the park. Seems like they're having a good time, but deal with the excess. Those that have stepped over the line, do not let them push on it. Hopefully, if anything does happen, it will not be a dramatic escalation, which results in this getting way, way worse. But I bring you now to the sheer and glorious absurdity that is CNN. Why, they just told us that armed individuals here would resist if the police came, and there's a real potential for bloodshed. But you can turn no further than to Oliver Darcy to see that CNN is a trash media organization. If you've been getting your news from right-wing media, you probably think armed militant Antifa activists have seized a section of Seattle. But the mayor's office tells me city officials have not interacted with armed Antifa militants at the site. Will Chamberlain with the appropriate response. This is you. And it's a picture of Mr. Rogers putting on a clown mask. First of all, let me break down how Oliver Darcy is manipulating you. He says, first, if you've been getting your news from right-wing media, you probably think, militant Antifa activists have seized this section. He didn't say it didn't happen. He then says, the mayor tells me they have not interacted with these groups. Those statements don't contradict each other. He's using a framing technique to make it seem like that proves the former is false. No. Okay. There are absolutely armed Antifa groups there, as CNN themselves have reported. Oh, okay. Maybe they're not saying it's just not Antifa. Oh, okay. The armed groups are there, but they're not Antifa. There, that fixes everything. No, it doesn't. Here's the official report from professional liar Oliver Darcy, who said, right-wing media says Antifa militants have seized part of Seattle. Local authorities say otherwise. No, they don't. Local authorities did not assert whether or not there was Antifa or otherwise. They did say that it was taken, that the space was taken. They called it a block party, and there are armed people there. But they are associated with Antifa. I think it's funny. When we talk about Antifa, they say, Antifa's not even a thing. It's not even a real group. And then when you actually get Antifa-affiliated groups, they go, but Antifa's not really there. Oh, so now Antifa is a group. Yes, the John Brown Gun Club is there. There is a viral video where you hear the woman announce, the John Brown Gun Club is here for our security. They're on our side. So yes, maybe it's fair to say there is potential for bloodshed, but come on, calm the rhetoric down, buddy. First of all, this headline is false. Locals did not say otherwise. That never happened. Right-wing media is correct to say they have seized part of Seattle. That is part of the problem. He says claims that bands of militant Antifa members are roving the Seattle streets appear to be grossly exaggerated in right-wing media. In fact, according to the Seattle mayor's office, city officials haven't seen any evidence to indicate armed members of Antifa are even on the ground. He lies again. Listen, city officials have not interacted with armed Antifa militants at the site, but will continue to be on site to monitor the situation closely. Does that statement say they don't exist? No, it says they haven't interacted with them. What is he saying? He's just making things up. Okay, let me break down for you the lies. I bring you now to this glorious photo of just two random people who happen to be standing in the CHAZ autonomous zone, minding their own business, who are in no way Antifa. Oh, wait, what's that? It's the John Brown Gun Club. They are armed. They have rifles. They have walkie-talkies. They have sidearms. And you can see this man has a hat that says FTP. Now, I'm not going to pretend to know what he's trying to say, but I can tell you FTP typically means F the police. Now, this group is the John Brown Gun Club. Yes, if you search for John Brown Gun Club, you get redirected to Redneck Revolt, which they say is an anti-fascist, anti-racist, anti-capitalist. And although I want to make sure we draw the distinction between anti-fascism in general and Antifa, a member of the John Brown Gun Club, I believe it was a couple of years ago, maybe not even that long ago, showed up to an ICE facility with firebombs and weapons and attacked it and lost his life. He left a letter saying he was Antifa and he was a member of the John Brown Gun Club. You also have this guy, another dude in body armor with a weapon. They've reportedly been guarding the barricades and keeping out people they deem to be undesirable. So why is CNN trying to downplay this and act like it's not happening? It's simple. Because Donald Trump says it is. So what Oliver Darcy does is he deceives you by pretending it's okay. There's no Antifa militants. There are militants. They are far left, but they're not Antifa. Oh, okay. I thought anyone who opposed anti-fascism was Antifa. I thought the heroic soldiers on D-Day storming the beaches of Normandy were Antifa. Not now. Oh, now you need that special emblem and that flag to prove they're an organization? You know what? Spare me, dude. It's so obvious what Oliver Darcy is doing here. He is lying to cover up for the fact that, yes, far left extremists are armed and they are occupying this space. Mind you, they are legally allowed to be armed. I have no problem with that at all. None whatsoever. What I do have a problem with is them intimidating locals and individuals and not letting them enter. There's been reporting of that. I haven't seen it myself, but that's apparently what people are saying. And there have been calls for more armed people to show up. Now, there is a group of people, a guy named CHAZ, who may have been displaced as of recent, but there's videos of him, and apparently his group is armed. They've called themselves the new police, and they've physically assaulted people. There's videos of it. There's also another video of a guy who's accused of theft being surrounded while they yell at him, "What did you do?" And someone's got a baseball bat. He says, "I didn't do anything." Congratulations on your new lawless space. You've conquered land, okay, colonizers. You've set up border walls, you built the wall, and you're using guns to protect it. You have just created your own society. But Oliver Darcy will lie to you about what's really going on. Why? Like I said, Donald Trump wants to clear this out. Donald Trump has threatened the space. He's traded back and forth with the governor Inslee and with the mayor of Seattle. CNN exists, or at least Oliver Darcy does, just to oppose the president. But let me show you let me show you something, right? First of all, I want to prove to you that this is the John Brown Gun Club, to be completely fair, so that you can see I'm not making this up, okay? Let me play this clip.
Hey,
Seattle,
folks.
It's Capitol
Okay,
Hill.
we have a message coming through from the John Brown Gun Club, who is helping us with security. There are some things they want you to know. The John Brown Gun Club is armed for your safety. They are on our side.
If you guys want to get a screenshot of this.
And then they start clapping and cheering. The John Brown Gun Club is here for your security. They are on our side. Their side is the side that wants to abolish the police and the attached court systems. I'm not exaggerating. That's from the list, one of the list of demands that was published. For the most part, all these different lists seem to agree they want to abolish the police. However, they have armed militants who oppose the police and who are there for their security, and they clap and cheer for it. Is there a potential for bloodshed? I roll my eyes and say, yes, but come on. Look, I got to be fair. Comment below. Do any of you really believe these people are going to take up arms against cops? If a bunch of cops started marching in, the John Brown Gun Club is going to walk away, and they're going to walk in and take the space. That's all that will really happen. There was a video earlier of the police going to the precinct, and no one stopped them. They walked right in. No one stopped them. There were no guns. There were no threats. There was no formation. And the cops went in, checked out the building, and then walked out and said, "We want to take the building back." And the protesters were like, "No, you can't do it." And they started linking arms and stuff. The reality is, these people occupy a very fringe space that does not represent this country. According to ABC News, 64% of Americans oppose defund the police movement and their key goals. But it gets better than this. Take a look at this. I believe this is from, maybe from Pew. It's from YouGov. I'm sorry, YouGov. Huffington Post YouGov. The groups most supportive of defunding police is people with a postgraduate degree and self-described liberals. In fact, it looks like the only group of people with a plurality of support for defunding the police are self-described liberals. Across the board, every single age group opposes defunding the police. Even under 30, 42% opposes defunding the police. That to me is shocking, because when I was 20 or like 19 or 20, I was a moron. I would have been like, yeah, burn it down. Woo, defund the police. Young people are just all about this stuff. You know what I mean? But no, even they oppose it. Now, if you look at the 65 plus crowd, they overwhelmingly oppose it. But every group, no college degree and postgraduates, oppose defunding the police. Conservatives oppose. Moderates oppose. Liberals support. Black people and white people oppose. GOP oppose. Democrats oppose. All Americans oppose. There's only 27% support for this. So who are these people? And what do they want? Look, man, I really do see this just as a street festival. It's fair to point out there are some bad apples there that need to be dealt with, and they're not dealing with them. I think it would be a bad idea for Trump to move in. Let baby have his bottle, okay? Look, I was down there during Occupy Wall Street, and it was a bunch of kids banging on drums, and they had no idea what was really going on. And that was the gist of it. After about just shy of 2 months, just about 2 months, they came in, the police, and cleared everybody out. And it was considered an outrage, but they did it. And they did it under the guise of sanitation. That was their argument, because they couldn't legally remove everybody. But there were a bunch of problems there, man. It was getting gross. It was getting really, really, really gross. But they also didn't have armed guards and barricades. Now we're seeing something different. It's been 10 years. This creepy ideology is expanding. It's getting worse. And this protest has nothing to do with George Floyd. I know the media said they're George Floyd protesters, but I really don't think that's fair at all. They're not. They're far-left extremists who are using Black Lives Matter as a shield to inject their fringe ideology across corporate America and into our culture and into our institutions. If you want to have a real conversation about police brutality, especially in minority communities, I'm 100% into it. I agree. Michael Bloomberg himself of New York City admitted to targeting, racial minorities. That's not okay. The government, the state should not be allowed to do these things. Totally agree. But what they're offering up is something totally different. Abolishing the police is not about ending the police departments. As we can clearly see with Antifastan, as it's jokingly referred to, they've said they are the police. That's their mission. So when you have this culture right now where far left extremists are being defended by CNN because they hate Trump this much, I can only imagine we are on track for things to become worse. I do not believe that anybody should be going in and crushing this, but maybe what they need is for a contingent of police to go in and march and push people out of the way to get the precinct back, and then let them have their autonomous zone, but keep the police department there. One of the biggest problems facing this zone is the extortion that's been implied by the police. Maybe it's not true, but it's hard to know for sure. I think the residents will need to speak up if they're opposed to what's going on. According to this graph, it looks like most of them probably are. However, self-described liberals support defunding the police. And I'm pretty sure that in Capitol Hill in Seattle, they're mostly progressives well to the left of liberals. But it's also true. There are probably a lot of people in there who are too scared to speak up because they know if they do, not only could they have their physical property destroyed because there's no police, they know that people could post their information online and then the horde will come for them in other areas of their life as well. They're being beaten into submission. So how do we solve this problem? I honestly do not know. But what I can say is let's everybody just calm down. I think this may grow to a larger problem. I think it's silly for CNN to threaten, or to warn of potential bloodshed. Everybody chill out. Everybody chill out. Okay, please, please, please chill out. But keep an eye on it. And I will. I'll be following news on the glory of Antifastan to see what happens in the coming days and weeks. My bet is that in the coming month or so, people will get bored and they will leave. However, I do think there is a very, very, very strong probability that they are putting out a call for more people to show up. And I'm willing to bet all of the people I knew from Occupy in New York are hopping on the plane right now and flying to Seattle to be a part of this. That could be a good thing. If regular little old liberals show up, they will displace the militants. We've already got reports that regular liberals have yelled at the gun-toting leftists and asked them to stop or to leave. They're still there. That's what we're hearing. They're still there. But maybe this will get diluted and become a dance festival. And that's the best we could hope for. But I'll leave it there. Stick around. The next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCastNews. It is a different channel, and I will see you all then.